Did you subpoena the Speaker's phone records? Yes, sir, we did. That single exchange opened a House Judiciary Committee hearing and immediately raised serious constitutional questions. Today we're breaking down what actually happened when Representative Brandon Gill questioned Special Counsel Jack Smith about subpoenas for congressional toll records. This took place on January 22, 2026, before the House Judiciary Committee. Rep. Brandon Gill, a Republican from Texas, questioned Special Counsel Jack Smith about toll record subpoenas issued in 2023. These were not wiretaps, they were metadata records showing who called whom and when, but not the content of conversations. The core issue: did these subpoenas violate the speech or debate clause of the U.S. Constitution, which protects members of Congress from executive interference in their legislative duties? Let's walk through the key moments. At the start of the exchange, Rep. Gill asks directly, "Mr. Smith, in January of 2023, did you subpoena then Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's toll records?" Smith replies, "Yes, sir, we did." Gill follows up. The subpoena covered November 2020 through January 2021, the period around January 6. McCarthy had just become Speaker on January 3, 2023. The subpoena was issued on January 19, just 16 days later. Gill presses, "How many days after Kevin McCarthy was sworn in as Speaker did you subpoena his records?" Smith says he doesn't recall the exact timing, but insists the two events had nothing to do with each other. Gill points out the optics. Collecting months of phone data on the top Republican in the House, right after he became Speaker, during a sensitive political period. Then Gill raises the constitutional concern. Do you agree that that might reasonably be considered a violation of the speech or debate clause? Smith answers, I do not. Gill continues, you were collecting months' worth of phone data on the Republican Speaker of the House, the leader of the opposition, right after he got sworn in as Speaker. That sounds like a flagrant violation to me. Next, Gill turns to the non-disclosure orders, NDOs, that prevented McCarthy and the phone companies from revealing the subpoenas existed. Speaker McCarthy had no recourse, did he? Because you issued a non-disclosure order ensuring that neither he nor any of the American people knew about these subpoenas. Is that right? Smith confirms. We did secure non-disclosure orders for those subpoenas. Gill asks the pointed question. At the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk? Smith. He was not. Gill then reads from the court order. The court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution. Smith tries to clarify. When securing a non-disclosure order, the risks don't have to be associated with the subscriber to the phone, they're risks to the investigation. You can hear Gill push back strongly, arguing that the language clearly referenced McCarthy and used what he called clearly false information to keep the subpoena secret. Gill then broadens the scope. In May of 2023, you also issued subpoenas for toll records of 9 U.S. senators and an additional representative. Is that right? Smith confirms yes, and that non-disclosure orders were used, consistent with department policy and law. Gill reveals an internal DOJ email from John Keller of the Public Integrity Section to Smith's team. The email states, there is some litigation risk regarding whether compelled disclosure of toll records of a member's legislative calls violates the speech or debate clause in the D.C. Circuit. It even quotes case law. The bar on compelled disclosure is absolute. The email's final sentence. Given my understanding of the low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, the litigation risk should be minimal here. Gill interprets this as prosecutors knowing the legal theory was untested, deciding the risk was low because the members likely wouldn't be charged and the secrecy orders would prevent challenges. Smith notes the email came from the Public Integrity Section, not his office directly, but Gill counters that it was part of the analysis used to justify the subpoenas. What really happened here? The subpoenas targeted historical toll records from late 2020, early 2021 as part of the ongoing January 6 investigation. Smith repeatedly emphasized that the timing of McCarthy's speakership was coincidental. Proper DOJ channels were followed, and court approval was obtained. Rep. Gill's central argument is that even if procedures were followed, the speech or debate clause sets an absolute bar on compelled disclosure of legislative communications. The use of standard non-disclosure order language that referenced flight from prosecution created an appearance of overreach, especially when applied to the Speaker of the House. The internal email shows the DOJ was aware of litigation risk, but proceeded because the chance of actual charges against members was low and secrecy would limit challenges. This raises legitimate questions about whether necessity and constitutional caution were properly balanced. Politically, this hearing fits into broader Republican concerns about perceived weaponization of federal investigative power against congressional leaders. From the DOJ perspective, toll records are a standard, limited investigative tool in serious cases, and the investigation predated McCarthy's speakership. Potential impacts. If courts later find these subpoenas violated the speech or debate clause, it could set new precedent limiting executive access to congressional metadata. On the other hand, overly strict limits could hinder legitimate investigations into matters like January 6th. The unanswered question remains: was this information truly necessary, or could it have been obtained through less intrusive means? In summary, this exchange highlights a real tension between investigative needs and constitutional protections for the legislative branch. Rep. Gill presented evidence of acknowledged legal risk and secrecy measures. Special Counsel Smith maintained that everything followed established policy and law, with the investigation focused on historical events unrelated to McCarthy's current role. The American people deserve both effective investigations and strong safeguards for separation of powers. Transparency and accountability matter on both sides. What do you think? Were these subpoenas appropriate tools in a serious investigation, or did they cross a constitutional line? Let me know in the comments. I read them. If you want more clear, factual breakdowns of congressional hearings, please subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks for watching.